Welcome to Mind Shift Power Podcast, a show for teenagers and the adults who work with them, where we have raw and honest conversations. I'm your host, Fatima Bey, the Mind Shifter. And welcome, everyone. Today we have with us, we're going to call her Bobo. She's 14 years old, and we're not here to hear about your opinion or mine. We're actually here to listen to hers. She represents a huge sentiment across the country from young women right now. I am actually doing this episode because it was brought to me. Just like when I had a young man on a few weeks ago telling us why he was voting for Trump, it wasn't a reflection of my opinion. It was a reflection of listening to our youth. And like that episode, this is also a reflection of listening to another segment of our population. We need to listen to them instead of us just always talking at them. I always say that, and I'm representing that, demonstrating that here today. And her generation, it's important that we listen to them because they will have to experience the repercussion of this next administration heavier than us adults because they're growing and developing through it. And then they'll have to deal with the after effects as they go into adulthood. So how are you doing today, Bobo?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm excited to be here.
Good. I'm glad that you're here. And as usual, I like to dive right in. So why don't you tell the audience how you were feeling when you found out that Trump actually won?
So you see, the funny thing is when I found out, it was the morning after the election day. So Wednesday, it's like 5 something in the morning. And the first thing I do when I get up is search on my phone who won election 2024. And I found out it was Donald Trump. Now, the election result wasn't the most shocking part. I had kind of foreseen this. It was kind of expected for me, but there's always that sliver of hope that, our country's better than this. There's no way that we could vote for, a liar, a cheat, a felon, frankly. And, it was disappointing. However, it was more the implications of the election that bothered me. There are more people willing to try to take away my rights than uplift me and support me.
So can you be more specific about what you are? Would you consider the term being afraid as accurate?
Yes, I am afraid for the future.
So can you be specific about what is it that you are afraid of?
I'm afraid of losing my rights, both as a female, a Black female specifically. He's already taken, stances against abortion that I don't agree with, made statements about just about every racial, minority, that obviously I don't agree with as a Black person myself. And, that's both of those things are part of my identity. And I feel like that's being threatened.
Okay. And that's understandable. Now you're 14 right now. So in 4 years, you'll be 18.
Yeah.
How do you see the next 4 years?
Honestly, if his last term is any indication, it's going to be rough. I see problems. I see chaos.
And what do you think can be done by your generation right now?
Things like this, putting ourselves out there, making sure our voices are heard. They are important. We may not be able to vote yet, but we are the next generation of voters. And so making sure that we are informed as well as being able to inform others, I think that's really important.
What are some more specific things that your generation can do on that? And what are some details of what they can do right now?
Speaking out, just having dialogue, I think is so important. Making sure our voices are heard, talking to your parents, even, getting together at schools and local institutions to, really put ourselves out there and make it known how we feel.
What if you're told to shut up?
Keep going. Just keep on pushing.
Yes. And what are some of the ways in which you can speak out?
Again, dialogue, things like this. I'm on a podcast right now. I've never done anything like this before, but it's a very interesting experience. And I think it's very important that things like this continue to be done.
And social media?
Of course, it's, huge platforms out here. And when using them for good, I think great things can happen.
Yes. What about in the classroom?
In the classroom, we haven't done much. However, my school did have a mock election, things like this, making sure that, we understand how government works, because I think that's also a large part of the issue. An uninformed voter base is very dangerous. It's
Can you repeat
a killer.
That, please?
An uninformed voter base is a killer of democracy. So, starting off young in high schools, middle schools, even just in children that you have the right to vote. Your ancestors fought for the right to vote. Use it, use your voice, and make things happen.
Do you think that government type clubs in high schools need to ramp up their energy? I'm not sure how else to word that, but get more people involved?
I think that is very important, especially in times like these, really just helping people to understand.
I totally understand where you're coming from, where ignorance is how we end up with foolish leaders. And ignorance is how we end up making bad choices. And that's true whether you're talking about politics or otherwise. But I think a good majority of our nation, and not just people your age, is completely clueless as to how the government actually works. And that is a problem, a huge problem.
Yes, I do agree.
What do you think is one of the worst things that we adults right now, knowing that, again, you are speaking for yourself, but I also know that you're representing a good portion of your generation right now, just because of what's been brought to me. I've had people tell me they're literally crying about Trump winning, and they're more scared than you about what's coming. And it's not, again, you represent a lot. You don't represent everyone, obviously, but you do represent a large portion of the mood in this country right now. For adults who are listening right now, what is the worst thing we can do?
The worst thing that I think the adults can do is lose hope. You have to, we all have to stand strong, and we have to stand together. It is in these hard times that we have to come together as communities, as a country, really, to push forward. And the other thing is to, shut us down, us young people. What I mean, tell us that our opinions don't matter. And I think that they do matter. They do matter.
I absolutely agree with you. Can you give us some very specific examples of what an adult shutting you down looks like?
Specifically, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not old enough to know, you don't understand what's going on. And I think that that's actually counterintuitive, because we were born into this. And I think that helps us to understand it even better than some older people.
I'm going to reword that. Adults listening, one of the dumbest things you can do is to shut down your teenager and tell them they don't know nothing, and tell them to shut up. You may not use the word shut up, but you just be dismissive. I want to reiterate what Bobo had just said. They are going to have to live and grow. They're developing humans right now, and they're going to develop in chaos more than we ever did. And they have to try to become an adult in the aftermath of chaos. That is not a small thing. We need to listen to how they feel and what they have to say, because there's no way we can come up with solutions for them from inside our heads. We have to listen to them first. I just wanted to reiterate that, because I agree with you 1,000%. It's one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast. We need to hear what you guys have to say, even if we don't agree. And I don't agree with everybody, but I think it's important that we hear your voice, because you're the next generation. You're going to be taking care of us when we old and can't work. So we need y'all to be all right. You know what I mean? What are some good things that adults can do to be helpful for you guys?
Well, the opposite of what they shouldn't do. Uplift us, listen to us, take suggestions from us, because we are, like you said, the next generation. And so, we have to build the current world in a way that will sustain our futures.
What are some of the ways we can lift you up specifically?
Listening, not shutting us down. Very important, having opinions from different people from all walks of life is how we build a better society.
Yes. And I want to reiterate to the adults listening, just because you're listening doesn't mean you're going to agree with your child or a teenager, doesn't mean they're right. But if you at least take a moment to listen and consider what they have to say, it may actually change how you do things. And it's extremely important. Let me ask you this, Bobo, as a 14-year-old, if I'm an adult and I'm dismissing everything you say, are you going to listen to anything I have to say?
Likely not.
Exactly. So it is important and because many adults listening, we have important things to say that are absolutely true and we're absolutely right. But why would you listen to somebody who's shutting you down and treating you like you're dumb? You may not use those words, but that's what you're doing. So why would I listen to you? And we have to keep that in mind. Listen to them, and they're more likely, doesn't mean they're guaranteed because they're still teenagers, but they're more likely to take what you have to say seriously because you took them seriously. Again, I'm talking to the adults here. Speak to your peers right now. What do you have to say to your peers, people your age across this country right now?
Stay strong. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep speaking out. Keep advocating for yourselves. I think that giving up is one of the worst things that we can do, especially now. We need to stand together and we need to stand strong so that we can move forward.
How can you guys advocate for yourself? What are some of the other ways you can advocate for yourself?
Like you brought up, social media, supporting each other. That's important. Speaking out, again, dialogue with the adults. Don't be afraid to stand by your opinions, formulate opinions. And, I think that's all very important stuff.
I think standing up, no matter what topic you're talking about, is very important. You can't just lay down and let things happen. Mm-hmm. And I think we're entering an era where that's going to be more true than ever. Honestly, I think we're going to start to have an appreciation for what our ancestors went through in the civil rights era, because I think we're headed back there in many ways, not in every single way, but in many ways. And I get the sentiment that you guys are feeling, and there is hope, but only if we don't give up. And I want to point something else out. One of the other worst things that we can do as adults or teens is all the stupid fighting. Mm-hmm. And I'm calling it stupid because most of it is. I don't mean conversations where you disagree. That's not stupid. But fighting and just cursing people out on social media instead of like trying to actually understand somebody different than yourself, that is kind of dumb. That's really dumb. I will also add to that for the adults listening. I have seen more mature conversations coming out of high school students than some of you adults. I have watched high school students who strongly disagree on things have conversations, even if they're intense, but they still actually try to listen to each other. Where we have the adults are like, oh, you support Trump? Well, then you're just a weak little sheeple. Oh, you support the left? Well, you're just, an airhead, whatever word you want to give it. And people take things to the extreme because they're mentally imbalanced. And would you agree with that assessment, Bobo, or am I wrong?
I do, honestly. And that's another fear is, all these violence, these tensions are going to come to a head. And, we don't want another insurrection, another non-peaceful transfer of power. And, I don't want that to become the norm.
Right.
Because it's not normal.
It's not. And I really feel for your generation that you are having to grow up with the pile of crap that us adults have left you. I'm going to be real honest. You guys didn't ask for this world to be the way it is. You were born into it, as you said earlier. Mm-hmm. There's many reasons it's not one person or one thing or one side's fault. That's never true. But we did create the world that you're in. And, I think we should, as adults, probably examine what went wrong so that you guys don't repeat it. We can't go back and change the past. It is what it is. But I think it's important that, again, we really listen to what you guys have to say. And I want you all out there who are teens to know there are some of us adults who actually do want to hear what you have to say. We want to listen, and we want better for you. I think you just have to find us and make sure you connect with us, because we are stronger together. All of us, we are stronger together. And the worst thing we can do is the fighting. You're going to have disagreements. That's normal. That's normal being human, but we don't have to let it turn into an explosion. Just because you spark a fire doesn't mean it needs to burn down the whole forest. And I think we sometimes become so self-centered, because that's what's at root of it, that we do, And I want to encourage all of you youth out there to make it a point to be better than my generation. Be better than the adults you see acting like freaking kids. And am I lying? I mean, be better. Be better than us. Be more mature than us. Show us what maturity looks like. Don't be like the ones who are fighting like children in the schoolyard and we're supposed to be grown-ups. Be better than us. And Bobo, do you have anything else to say?
I fully agree with the sentiment. It's important that we don't let these sort of, trivial party affiliation things come between us. We are all Americans. We all are trying to live our best lives and leave a better future. And I think that all of this, partisanship and separation is what's really hurting us right now.
It is. And it's intentionally built in. That's really another conversation. But we are out of balance as a nation, and we're too far on the left or too far on the right. And the truth is, there is good and bad in both parties. There are nut jobs in both parties. Nut jobs leading both parties, honestly. We got to get past the labels and start looking at content. If we do, we see things differently.
Absolutely.
Well, Bobo, thank you so much for coming on and letting us know how you feel. And I hope that there are some of your peers who actually listen to this and realize that they are not alone, but also that there's hope.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me. This was, very important. I feel like this is very important, and hopefully this will get to reach a lot of people.
Yes, thank you. Thanks again. And now for a mind-shifting moment. I want to plant another thought seed today, and for the adults listening right now, I want you to consider what it must feel like to be them. And no, you don't understand because you've never been there. You haven't grown up in the society that the current 14 and 15-year-olds are growing up in. You haven't dealt with the outlook that they're now experiencing and know they're about to experience. Please take the time to listen to the teen generation right now. Many of them are far more intelligent than you think. They understand more than you think, and they're the future generation. We'll never come up with solutions that work for them or make anything better for them if we don't listen to them. Take the time to listen. Thank you for listening to Mindshift Power Podcast. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Mindshifter. If you have any comments, topic suggestions, or would like to be a guest on the show, please visit fatimabay.com/podcast. Remember, there's power in shifting your thinking. Tune in for next week.